Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my short news summary from Moscow, Russia. Today is, of course, 28th of July. Now it's 5 past 3, middle of the day by Moscow time. And, this is my second news update for the day. First one was published early in the morning on my Patreon and Boosty pages. And dear friends, if you like my work and if you want and can support, and also if you like to have access to that early updates or any extra content that I have on Patreon and Boosty, please consider to join our communities. There will be greater support, of course, and I welcome everybody with their open arms, of course. Links are under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And I have prepared good, I think, good, interesting update for you. A lot of topics to go through. I might actually later on today even make a reaction video on some programs from Daniel Davis, also from Duran, because Saturn, some people might like it first and foremost, and there was certain statements made there that I think I can add some substance to it if I will react on it. After all, I'm a small creator and I'm not being invited nowhere, so therefore I don't really have an opportunity to share my opinion on different channels like that. But anyways, dear friends, and if I make a reaction video, it will be published on my Boosty channel only, and it will be free for access. So you don't have to be a member of Boosty community necessarily to watch the video. I will let you know about her update through my channels, right? Through community page on YouTube, through my Telegram and Twitter X page. But for this program, well, as I said, I have a lot of topics to go through, a lot of news. And before I start, let me just remind you that you can initiate conversation about any news, any topic you like. You can send your question or the commentary through PayPal platform or Boosty platform, or through a super chat feature on Rumble. I'm streaming on both my channels on YouTube and Rumble simultaneously. And of course, I will react on your questions and their comments and try my best and will try my best to be informative in the reaction. I just dropped in the YouTube chat a link to my Rumble channel, and it's the same stream, by the way, so you can switch to Rumble if you have account there, or if you don't, right? And okay, that's being said, let's go through some news. As I said, a lot is going on, man. A lot is going on. First and foremost, let me remind you, if I may, that yesterday Russian armed forces liberated Kommunarovka and Tarskoye settlements. Kommunarovka is in Dnipropetrovsk region, Tarskoye is in the DPR, and today, literally about like a few minutes before I launched this live stream, Defense Ministry confirmed that Russian armed forces also liberated Krasny Kut settlement. Let me show you in a DPR. Let me show you this liberated territories difference. So when it comes to Dnipropetrovsk, this is, Christoforovka or Kommunarovka settlement that is under Russian control now. When it comes to Tarskoye, it's in a DPR, right? So Tarskoye is this one here that was liberated yesterday, and this is Krasny Kut village right next to Tarskoye that have become under full Russian control right now. And as you can see, dear friends, every single day Russian troops are moving forward, advancing, and they're getting closer and all along the front line, let's say, with exception of Kherson region, because there is a Dnieper River there that divides their sides. But when it comes to ground, well, definitely Russian troops are improving their positions on daily basis. And in DPR case, Russian troops are getting closer and closer to Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. Russian DRGs already are operating in the vicinity of these cities, and regular forces also are getting closer and closer, literally every single day. That's being said, let's go through some other news, and of course, Russian armed forces conducted long-range precision strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime um, past night and throughout the day, also on energy infrastructure that is related to military capabilities of Kyiv regime. And for example, we have a report today that during the nighttime alone, Russian armed forces conducted strikes in direction of Sumy region, Nikolaev region, in the vicinity of Odessa, so Odessa region, obviously, Krivoy Rog area, Kharkov region, Dnipropetrovsk region, Chernigov region, and Zaporozhye and Kiev regions, by the way. So vast geography of Russian long-range precision strikes there for sure. And their friends, Russian militaries are quite effectively are eliminating energy infrastructure related to military capabilities or combat capabilities of a Kyiv regime. That includes, of course, gas stations that Kyiv regime was using to refuel its military vehicles that were moving towards the zero line or line of combat contact or zero line towards uh, towards close enough areas, right? And well, there is a situation now when hundreds of gas stations were eliminated, and the Kyiv regime's forces are actually struggling to fill up their tanks. It's a logistical nightmare for Kyiv regime, and so much so that extreme Russia hater, and the so-called journalist of Bild German newspaper, Julian Robke, is crying about crying about on his social media, complaining that Russia has destroyed all gas stations along the three major routes between Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkov, and Poltava, which is true, by the way. And this is not something new. This is not breaking news. Russian militaries eliminated their gas stations on these routes quite some time ago, creating truly serious difficulties in terms of logistics for the Kyiv regime. But it is nice, obviously. I mean, it is nice to see that these Russia haters, these scumbags that pretend to be journalists or public figures or politicians in the West are in extreme pain, right? Psychological pain due to Russian successes. Good. That's a good stuff, man. That's a good stuff. Those are criminals don't really deserve any better. Meanwhile, Russian armed forces, of course, continue to further intensify maritime blockade that was imposed as a retaliatory measure for attacks on Russian navigation, civilian navigation in the Azov Sea and Black Sea. So there was an introduction of maritime blockade on Western-backed terrorist Nazi regime in Ukraine, Odessa region, Nikolaev region, Danube River, portal areas of Kyiv regime there. Were under constant Russian strikes for quite some time now, and past 12 to 24 hours were nor any better for them, right? For enemies of Russia, we have reports that from Ministry of Defense of the Russian Armed Forces that during their nighttime, early in the morning, more vessels were struck by Russian troops. Russian military forces targeted ships carrying cargo for Ukrainian armed forces in the port of Nikolaev and in the Black Sea. Russian Ministry of Defense reported bulk carrier was hit by unmanned aerial vehicle. This is usually advanced Geran drones, by the way, that are operating through satellite internet, Russian satellite internet. So bulk carrier was struck in Black Sea, and also Hawk was hit in Nikolaev. But this is not all. This is not all, because literally, like half an hour ago, approximately, I posted on my Telegram channel and Twitter X page update, and we have reports that advanced Russian Iran attack drones hit 4 more vessels used by Ukrainian Armed Forces or Kyiv regime, a dry cargo ship in the port of Nikolaev, another one, as well as 2 bulk carriers and a dry cargo ship in the Dnieper Bug estuary. So, as I said, dear friends, it's not just about shutting down portal infrastructure and maritime routes that this Ukrainian Nazi regime uses in terms of Black Sea, but also obviously it is very important to shut down portal area, portal infrastructure, and maritime or navigational routes for Ukrainian Nazis on the Danube River too, because Danube River is a major logistical line for entire Europe, actually, not just for Ukrainian Nazis, but for entire Europe. Danube crosses like 8 or 12 countries, isn't it? So it's a very busy river, and dear friends, Kiev regime Kiev regime has quite significant maritime infrastructure that was built by Soviet Union on the Danube River. That includes, of course, Ismail City, Reni City, and many others. Right? Just look. By the way, this is Ismail, for example, correct? And I mean, it's very well developed in terms of maritime capabilities, as you can see on your map. And I just realized that you cannot see it because I forget to open the screen capture. But well, you can see it now, isn't it? You can see it now. And I have to be a bit more careful, man. I mentioned there are settlements that were liberated. Let me show you, dear friends, if you are interested. Some members of our community are actually interested to know on the map advances of the Russian forces. So this is Christoforovka or Komunarovka settlement that in the Dnipropetrovsk region that was liberated by Russian forces. And when it comes to DPR, this is Tarskoye settlement, and this one is Krasny Kut settlement that are now liberated. And as I said, when Russian troops are getting closer and closer to Slavyansk and Kramatorsk agglomeration, Russian DRGs already are operating basically in the vicinity of the city. So let's go back to maritime blockade that Russia has introduced. So we have this update that 4 more vessels were struck, which is obviously going to have a massive impact on the battle capabilities of Kiev regime's forces. And also, let's be real, man, also this will have a quite significant financial and economical impact on the Kiev regime, because according to some reports, about 80% of exports of Ukrainian this Western backer Nazi and terrorist regime in Ukraine was extremely dependent on the maritime routes. And now, only way they can export anything is through ground crossings with Romania, with Poland, with Slovakia or Hungary. But these EU member states are not quite happy, actually, when it comes to any goods entering EU territory from Ukraine. And you remember past year there was massive demonstrations in Poland, demonstrations of farmers and God knows who else, by the way, that were protesting because of this flooding that was happening in Europe by Ukraine with cheaper produce and cheap goods, basically, right? Same was happening in Hungary, demonstrations, protests, same in all the neighboring countries with Ukraine. And so it's significant, this maritime blockade, if it will last until the end of special military operation, will definitely have a significant economical and financial impact too on the capabilities of Ukrainian Nazi and terrorist regime. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, obviously. Also, we have this report that Russian Foreign Ministry commented on the developments in regards to strikes on maritime, let's say, capabilities of Kiev regime. Russia will continue to prevent maritime shipments of weapons and munition for Ukrainian armed forces, the foreign ministry told the RIA Novosti. All responsibility for the consequences falls on the Zelensky regime and its Western masters. This is official position of Foreign ministry, I would not say Moscow, because foreign ministry is being sidelined lately by Kremlin when Putin decided that he gonna do some foreign dealings through his aides, through Dmitriev and Ushakov. So this is official foreign ministry's claim, right? And by the way, when it comes to Kremlin, I don't know. I don't know. I would not be surprised at all. And I will go back to this point, this topic in a few minutes. I would not be surprised at all if in near future, in next several days, let's say maybe a week or so or something, Moscow will order Russian militaries and security services to lift their maritime blockade or ease the maritime blockade of Kiev regime. I think there is a high probability, very high probability even, that exactly this is going to happen. So therefore, current official position of Russian foreign ministry may not be decisive one, right? Because yet again, Kremlin is in charge, right? And Kremlin might make some different. Kremlin might choose some different takes in a relatively short time. But I will go back to this topic. Now let me continue with this report that Romania expelled Russian diplomat. While I'm talking about foreign ministry, why should not I mention this topic also? So Romania expelled Russian diplomat due to this crossings of Romanian airspace by some unidentified drones 3 days in a row. Hungary was intercepting those drones, and I saw some reports that to intercept 3 drones, that cost Hungary's Air Force, Romania, not Hungary, Romania, that cost Romanian Air Force either $1.2 million or something like that, right? $1.5 million. What's going on, man? I don't know what's going on in Hungary, but if they did not shut down these drones with guns, those planes, then real cost probably was like 3-4 times higher, because air-to-air missiles, they cost quite a lot, actually. But anyways, the Russian diplomat was expelled there. Let me give you some details on that. Romania is expelling Russian diplomat after Romanian Air Force shut down 3 drones in its airspace over the 3 days, with the Bucharest claiming the UAVs or drones were Russian. Romania's foreign ministry said in a statement. According to it, the foreign ministry summoned Russian ambassador Vladimir Lipayev in connection with repeated violations of the Romania's airspace between July 24th and July 26th of this year, when the Romanian army shot down 3 drones that had entered the national territory without permission. The Romanian side handed a firm protest to head of Russian diplomatic mission. Hungarian side also demanded verbally from Russian ambassador, basically, that one of the Russian diplomats should leave country within 5 days. Romania has also recalled its ambassador from Moscow to Bucharest for consultations, which is a diplomatic démarche, by the way. Of course, when you are recalling your ambassador, that's in diplomacy, that's a kind of a big escalation. And it is unfortunate that Moscow allows these rabbi chihuahua entities, like Romania, for example, to act like that, right? I mean, there is no reason, I believe, there is no reason whatsoever to have diplomatic relationships with Romania, at least at this particular point, right? When Romania is extremely hostile towards Russia, and therefore there is no need to waste millions of dollars on maintenance of a diplomatic mission there and everything else. And if we did not wasted millions of dollars on this nonsense, and if we did not have no diplomatic ties with Romania, Bucharest would not be able to go for this démarche when they are recalling ambassador. Not Russia, by the way, but Romania is escalating. What's going on in this world, man? This is pure madness, and insanity, right? But anyways, it is what it is now. One of the Russian diplomats have to leave Romania. Of course, Russian side will demand one Romanian diplomats that are probably left here somewhere in Moscow to get out of country. And okay, that is that, right? But what is also interesting, Russian diplomat in that meeting when he was summoned stated that Russian side would like to see any evidences that these drones were Russian. Russian side would like to see evidences that these drones were Russian. And the Romanian side is failing to provide any evidences, just a verbal statements that, well, this was a Russian. Really? You know, with same success, Romania can claim that asteroid that killed the dinosaurs some 60 million years ago and caused mass extinction was also Russian. If evidence is no longer required, then yeah, I mean, anybody can say anything. And where that will lead this freaking war. And I personally have no issues, by the way. Let's freaking send 100 drones into Romania and eliminate all the legit military targets, right? That are involved in attacks on Russian Federation. I personally, and vast majority of Russian citizens, I think will have no issue with that. But because we did not strike Romania intentionally, and Romania claims that we actually did this, then please provide some evidences. This is especially relevant when we know, by the way, Kyiv regime on numerous occasions sent drones into Romania, into Poland, and God knows where else, into Romania, into Moldova, too, while claiming that this was a Russian. And not just drones, but remember there was an instance when missiles struck Poland and even injured or killed someone there. And initially, there was a massive hysteria that, well, Russia struck Poland with a missile and this and that. And then it took very little time for investigators to realize that this was a Ukrainian missile, not the Russian one. So where is the evidence? But nowadays, man, no evidences are required. Rather, when we are talking about Western world, right? They are in illusionary world when whatever they say is true. And that's their approach, right? Anyways, also there was interesting reports today, early in the day, that a car exploded in Odessa, BMW, or I mean, Germans say BMW, but BMW actually, right? That's how their Germans say it. This brand of the vehicle, English and Americans say BMW. Anyways, this BMW was destroyed as a result of explosion, and according to preliminary data, driver was wounded, and their target was high-ranking naval commander, naval official of Kyiv regime that was basically member of a Navy command headquarters. He was working in logistics, and you know what? I see quite a few reports about this, and even though Kyiv regime, of course, going to blame Russia for this explosion of the vehicle of this Ukrainian military, but I think Russia has nothing to do with it. Probably there is some there is some wars that are going on between different criminal groups in Ukraine, criminal groups that are fighting for a better place under the sun, right? Fighting for a better share or bigger share of whatever they are stealing. And that's what it is, really. I don't think this has anything to do with Russia, although, of course, we're going to be blamed. We've always been blamed, by the way. I mean, if weather is bad, it's Russia's fault. If it's rains too long, it's Russia's fault. If it's too cold, it's Russia's fault. If sun does not, feel well, that's Russia's fault too. I mean, if there is too many sunspots on the sun, which means that they're going to be coronal mass ejections, right? And some disturbances in the magnetic field and stuff. So, yeah, that's Russia's fault too. Everything is Russia's fault, right? I mean, if you ask enemies of Russia. Anyways, yes, that was a reporter today, and I think it is interesting to pay attention that there is actually some serious confrontation is going on inside there. This Western-backed Nazi and the terrorist regime in Ukraine, and they are even going after each other in terms of killings and stuff. Not the first time, and I don't think that's the last instance either. And also, I have to talk about again, dear friends, about topic of mobilization, because Western propaganda and key regime they continue to push this narrative that, well, they're going to be mobilization in Russia, massive mobilization, at least 300,000 people going to be mobilized, reservists. Some say 500,000. Some goes as far as to say 700,000 going to be mobilized, and all of it is freaking nonsense. All of it is nonsense, right? There is no preparations right now here in Russia about mobilization. And you know what is most funny in all this topic? That Western propaganda, it pushes this narrative in a hope, I guess, right? That this topic will create some disturbances inside the Russian society, and people gonna go against the government, or if they think mobilization gonna happen, and there might be some internal civilian unrest and something like that. Why would otherwise Western propagandists push, Western ruling class would push this narrative? The point is, dear friends, that if today or tomorrow or day after, Putin will address the nation and will say, you know what, dear friends, I tried to exercise restraint for as long as I could, right? It's 4.5 years now, and as we can see, restraint is not working as much as we would like, and Western ruling class thinks that they can harm Russia and Russian people with total impunity whenever they want, and well, to teach the lesson to those idiots that are in charge of the Western world. Well, I'm now changing my attitude, my approach. There are going to be no more restraints. We're going to restore the term to the collective West as soon as possible, right? And to stay on the safe side, we have to mobilize 300,000 people, or 500,000 people, or freaking million people. If Putin says that today or tomorrow and day after, I'm telling you, man, his ratings gonna skyrocket. His ratings that actually dropped because of the restraint policy that he's still pushing, his ratings will skyrocket. I will freaking support him, man. I'm not gonna vote for him, but if he does this, if he actually addresses the nations and says that, guys, I tried my best in terms of diplomacy, nothing is working, right? So we have to now change this restraint policy on something more effective. And if he says that he's going to greenlight Russian security services and militaries to restore the terms with collective investment, I will vote for his freaking party, man. I'm telling you. And I'm not neither supporter of Putin, neither supporter of his party. But I will go during the elections that is coming on late September, and I will vote for that party. If Putin actually changes his restraint policy, and if necessary, goes for mobilization. And let's mobilize me first, man. Right? I'm a reservist, so everyone understands that when I say I am supporting this idea, I myself is a reservist. So, and I'm a old man, relatively, right? So if there is another mobilization, most likely I will be among mobilized people. So, I'm not calling for something that would avoid me. No, I will be mobilized most likely too. Correct? And I'm telling you, man, if Putin does this, I'm going to go and vote for his party. Something that I never even think about doing, man. Correct? That's my reaction. Reaction of somebody that's not a supporter of either Putin or his party. So now, can you imagine what will be the reaction of people that are supporters of Putin and his party, or used to be supporters, and now distance themselves because of this exact restraint policy that frustrates so many people here in Russia. So honestly, man, I wonder how level of degeneracy, I mean, where their end is of the level of degeneracy of the Western ruling class and the Western propagandists, and how poorly they are informed about Russia. If they think that with their, while pushing this narrative of mobilization, they're gonna scare people here. They're not gonna scare nobody, man, with the exception of few, that might run somewhere and whining about, oh, why am I being mobilized, blah, blah, blah. There is always some people that love to whine always, right? No matter what, man. And they have a right to do so. I mean, I'm not judging nobody. I know I'm not gonna freaking run away. And I'm gonna try my best to be as useful as I can, man, if I'm mobilized. And I know vast majority of men here in Russia are on the very same page. That is that. And I'm coming back. I come back to this topic because yet again, West continues to push this narrative, and more officials here in Russia are commenting on that. For example, Kartapolov, head of Russian Parliament's Defense Committee, spoke about it. I give you a quote. I don't think much about these rumors. I heard that Zelensky said something about it, but I can only attribute it to the fact that he probably overdid it on the weekend. So his flights of fantasy become completely unlimited. And he is, of course, referring to drug addiction of Zelensky and abuse of some substances. And he also says that there is no need for Russia to conduct a new wave of mobilization. And this is true. And yet again, your friends, mobilization is not something simple, right? It's a very complex operation. When you are mobilizing, let's say, 500,000 reservists, you have to conduct a very complex logistical operation, because you have to give these 500,000 mobilized people everything from uniform and weapons to how you say rations, right? That's a sukhpayok, food basically, right? That you take on a video, right? Rations, right? You have to give them everything, munition. You have to allocate transport to move this many reservists, right? Armored vehicles, by the way, and God knows what else. You cannot hide mobilization of 500 preparations, logistical preparations to mobilize 500,000 people. In modern days, to hide such a scale of operation, complex operation, this is just impossible. Someone gonna film it, man. Someone gonna film something. I mean, you see in our warehouse, like 50,000 uniforms came in. Clearly, mobilization is in preparations. Someone would film in that case these rations are being delivered to some other warehouse, right, for military reserve, for reservists. Someone will film a lot of weapons that being suddenly shipped towards certain directions for reservists. None of it is happening. Literally none of it, man. Nothing. So therefore, whenever anybody says, man, that Russia is going to mobilize this many hundreds of thousands of people tomorrow or day after, this is all BS, man. It's just nonsense. But yet again, if Putin comes, addresses the nation and says, like, let's say after, better if he will do this before parliamentary elections. Better if he will do this before parliamentary election. I doubt he will, but I have some doubts that he will. But nevertheless, if he will do it before parliamentary election, if he will say, well, we have to mobilize, I'm changing restraint policy on something more effective, and I will support it, man. I'll take a vote for his party. If he will do it after parliamentary election, that I have also doubts that he will, okay, I will support it anyways, because I want this restraint policy to be removed. It's harmful. I'm strong believer that restraint policy that we are exercising with the collective West is tremendously harmful for Russian people and Russia. So I will support Putin's policy to change restraint uh, no matter what, now or tomorrow or in a month from now, if he will go for this. But, I mean, will he? I don't think so. But anyways, and I think majority of people here in Russia will be on the same page as I am on the matter. Mobilization don't scares freaking nobody, man, with the exception of maybe few. And another reason, by the way, why I came back to this topic is that, well, yesterday I saw and watch, listen actually for some time, um, this conversation between Daniel Davis and Scott Ritter. And I was surprised, man. I was surprised to see what you see right here. That Scott Ritter is saying Russia will mobilize 500,000 troops. And I listened to program that part. I clearly hear the part when in the first half of this conversation when Scott Ritter spoke about this topic. He said that Putin spoke to something along the lines that Putin spoke to Parliament or something. He said, "Do you want to go all in or something?" And people say yes, and then Scott Ritter said that, I mean, he was asked by Daniel Davis, I mean, is Putin going to mobilize people? And Scott Ritter was talking about 500,000 that is going to be mobilized. And allegedly Putin said this himself. And maybe Scott Ritter was misunderstood something because Putin did not say he's going to mobilize 500,000 people. He did not even spoke about mobilization in, I don't know, recent several months at least, right? Probably last time he spoke about mobilization when he actually issued a decree about mobilization in 2022, that was, isn't it? Late 2022, correct? I don't think since then he even spoke about mobilization. So I don't know what Scott Ritter means by his statements. Sometimes, and I think it will make another reason why it will probably be interesting, at least for some members of our community, to make, if I will make reaction videos that are, sometimes I might actually add something interesting to these conversations that different experts have on the different platforms, and maybe I will react on this particular video too. Let's see. It depends on the time, but yet again, dear friends, one thing I want to say, right? With all due respect to all these Western experts and analysts and commentators, we should never forget, dear friends, that these people are patriots of their countries. Correct? Scott Ritter quite often claims that some other commentators out there, he has some beef, especially with their doctoral, isn't it? And he is very vicious in regards to doctoral. I don't know why, man. I mean, I think Scott Ritter is crossing some lines there. On the I mean, it's just not nice, man. I don't know neither Scott Ritter, neither doctoral, but Scott Ritter is going after doctoral in ways that it seems if it's something personal there, right? It's never good stuff, man. But okay, it's their business. It's their business. But we should keep in mind that these people, they all are patriots of their own countries. Scott Ritter is a patriot of US, right? For example. And that can be said about a vast majority, if not all, of the commentators out there from the West, from the Western world. And I noticed that Scott Ritter is going after almost everybody who is critical of Putin's policy, Putin's restraint policy, especially. And can you explain to me why is that? Maybe because exactly due to patriotism of Scott Ritter, he don't wants his country to be harmed in any way, shape, or form. Understandable take, and maybe he sees further prolongation of Putin's restraint policies as one of the ways how U.S. and U.S. allies potentially might avoid some significant harm that possible Russian retaliation might do. Am I on something there, on some point? I think I am. Correct? And it's not just Scott Ritter. There are many other commentators out there in the West, from the Western world, in field of alternative media, that are also pushing the narrative that, well, this restraint policy of Putin is actually, success, and Putin knows what he's doing, and this and that. And if anyone says critical word, well, they don't like it. And I think reason is exactly the same, because they understand if Putin's restraint policy is changed, then most definitely their own countries, gonna get smacked, especially European ones. And they don't want that. These commentators might be against the war, 100%. But first and foremost, they are citizens of those countries, those European NATO member states, or US for that matter. And they don't want their own countries to be smart, even if those countries are committing crimes left and right. These people still don't want their own countries to be hit badly. And that definitely explains, I think, this attitude in mainstream attitude in alternative media that somehow restraint policy that Russia is exercising still is a good thing. They are protecting their own countries, by the way, while pushing this narrative. That's what is going on. Am I correct? I think I am. And Scott Ritter is wrong, by the way. There is no plans to mobilize 500,000 people here in Russia, at least for now. If tomorrow something changes, I will be first who will say about it. And I will say it quite happily. And as I said, man, let's start mobilization from me. I hope to see a day when Putin will actually address the nation and will announce that he's changing restraint policy, and to stay on safe side, we're going to go for a mobilization. Let's start this mobilization from myself. Will be good. I'm okay with that. But yet again, let's not forget, by the way, I know these are big names, all these commentators and the experts and so on. These are big names in alternative media and in their own countries, I guess, too. But they still are human beings. They love their own societies, their own countries, and they don't want their own countries to be hurt. Even if they understand perfectly well that those very same countries are committing crimes against humanity, war crimes, and numerous acts of wars against Russian people, for example, and Russian Federation. And therefore, they will support, as long as they possibly can, Putin in his restraint policy. Correct? So, yeah, there is no mobilization. There is no mobilization here in Russia in the plans, at least for near future. And but Russian army is increasing. Russian army is increasing, and as I spoke during the first update today on Patreon and Boosty, well, Putin signed decree increasing Russian armed forces by 25,000 service members. This is due to creation of a military construction units, new military construction units, and after this increase, overall number of military personnel in Russian armed forces are 1,510,000 used to be 1,510,000, and there has become 1,535,000. Overall number of people in the Russian army, that includes civilians too, obviously, that are doing different jobs, is 2,426,130. But militaries are 1,535,000, which is quite a big number, actually, if you think about it. But yes, army is increasing, but there is no mobilization. And no one taking of rights of mobilization. That's also something to be highlighted. Let's continue with some other news. And well, because of the restraint policy exactly, which allow Western ruling class to break to cross all the red lines with Russia and conduct numerous crimes against Russian people with total impunity, which continues to happen on daily basis. Well, last night, the regime was able, and their NATO backers, they were able again to launch massive attack on the Russian Federation, and their defense forces intercepted 356 drones over their Belgorod, Bryansk, Volgograd, Voronezh, Kaluga, Kursk, Lipetsk, Oryol, Tula, Rostov, Ryazan, and Smolensk regions, over the Moscow and the Moscow region, as well as Crimea. Drones were also intercepted over the Sea of Azov. During these attacks, during these long-range attacks on the Russian Federation, there was another tragedy, by the way. Bus was targeted by Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists in the Belgorod region. 19 people were injured. You can see what happened to bus. It was a drone attack. 19 people were injured, according to governor of the region, Alexander Shuvaev, acting governor of the region, Alexander Shuvaev. 15 citizens received shrapnel wounds, and 3 others preliminary head acupuncture injuries. 6 of the victims are in a serious condition, he wrote on their Max platform, and let's hope doctors gonna save the lives of everybody that was injured during this yet another terrorist attack orchestrated by NATO member states and their Ukrainian Nazi proxies. And unfortunately, this type of tragedies are happening basically on daily basis, when civilians being targeted intentionally by Ukrainian Nazis and their Western backers. One of the main directions of attacks was the Moscow region, and Moscow and mayor of capital spoke about it, Sergei Sobyanin. He wrote that about 390 drones flew in direction of Moscow region since 8:30 p.m. yesterday evening, until 6:30 a.m. this morning. Majority of drones were intercepted. 81 of those drones were destroyed as they approached Moscow itself. None of the drones did manage to cross the border of Moscow and struck anything inside the capital. So air defense forces eliminated practically all drones flying towards Moscow. But unfortunately, in the region, Moscow region, situation is a bit different. Unfortunately, some drones did manage to bypass air defenses. And right now on your screen, you can see a high-rise apartment building that was struck by Ukrainian/NATO drones in the Chekhov, Moscow region. Also, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Wildberries, this is e-commerce company, Wildberries' warehouses were targeted in Kalidino, Moscow region. Preliminary information was that Kyiv regime and its NATO backers were successful in this attack, but later on, this information was rejected by different sources, and as of now, there is not a single report about destruction of Wildberries' Kalidino warehouse. At the same time, in the same direction, by the way, in Kalidino, Moscow region, 3PL logistics company was struck, and the warehouse caught fire, and there is significant damage there. And you can see this thick smoke that is coming out from that area. Not far away, this a company located there, as far as I can tell, not far away from the Wildberries warehouse. Maybe Ukrainian and their Nazis and their NATO backers mistook this warehouse for Wildberries warehouse or something, and they just struck this one. I don't know. Or maybe they just went after whatever warehouse they see. Because these are Ukrainian Nazis, right? And they're NATO backers. So they will go after any civilian infrastructure. They can. RIA Novosti is also reporting about casualties among Russian civilians that occurred during the past week as a result of these long-range attacks on the Russian Federation that are orchestrated by NATO member states due to lack of restraint and lack of deterrent between Russia and the NATO member. Due to restraint, exactly, not lack of restraint, but due to this freaking restraint, exactly, and lack of deterrent. And high-ranking Russian diplomat Rodion Miroshnik stated that over the past week, he spoke with the Russian media, so RIA Novosti is reporting about it, that according to Miroshnik, ambassador at large of the Russian Foreign Ministry, over the past week, 492 civilians suffered from shelling by Ukrainian Nazis, 435 people were wounded, including 14 minors, and 57 people were killed, including 7 children. Past week alone. That's what NATO does to Russian civilians. That's what NATO member states and their Ukrainian Nazi proxies do to Russian civilians. They killed 57, including 7 children, and they're injured 434, including 14 children. Meanwhile, head of this Ukrainian Nazi and the terrorist regime, Zelensky, yesterday was in UK. He had a first meeting, I think, with the new Prime Minister of UK on the board of British aircraft carrier Queen Elizabeth. Zelensky met with the Andy Burnham, and of course, all sorts of statements were made, mostly anti-Russian statements. Burnham, as all the other prime ministers of UK before him, promised forever support to Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists. There are rumors that UK will build now formerly Ukrainian drone manufacturing plant to produce more drones that then will be launched against Russia. Also, there is some reports about some radio electronic warfare know-how being transferred to Kyiv regime by British military industrial complex. What kind of know-how they have, man? They cannot freaking build even infantry fighting vehicle. What they can transfer to Ukrainians that Ukrainians themselves don't know. Come on, man. Intellectually, technologically, Ukraine, due to all their achievements of Soviet Union, has everything much better than UK will ever have, right? In terms of expertise. Different thing is that Ukraine is run by Nazis and the fascists and the criminals, right? Puppets of the Western world, and therefore capabilities that Ukraine actually had after Soviet Union collapse was never realized to create proper country, actually. And that's why Ukraine is a quasi-state, soon to be deleted from the political map. But anyways, there was a meeting on this Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier. Of course, a new Prime Minister of UK made some extreme anti-Russian statements. He once again highlighted that UK is ready to deploy its troops in Ukraine as soon as ceasefire is achieved, and blah blah blah. Right? All I can comment on that is that you know um, one day, man, UK will pay a price for all the crimes that this terrorist entity, this genocidal empire, has committed against Russian people. That day is coming. Today Zelensky is in. Today Zelensky is in U.S. He will have a meeting with Donald Trump about 30 minutes, I believe, because according to schedule of Trump, he will have a conversation with meeting basically with Zelensky at 4:30 p.m. Moscow time, literally in 30 minutes from now. And yeah, what they're gonna talk about? Of course, Zelensky will ask for more money. Zelensky was trained, by the way. You think why every time he flies to US, why every time he's visiting UK? Why? Literally every time, man. Why is that? Maybe because he is receiving instructions what to say, when, how, to whom. He's been instructed there, correct? And correct me, dear friends. Check if you want to. I think every time Zelensky moves to US, he's visiting UK or in some European country, but UK I think because he's a British asset, isn't it? He's a British asset. And of course, they're gonna talk about money, weapons, or this and that. But rumors are that Europeans, globalists, are demanding aerial ceasefire to be topic of aerial ceasefire to be pushed now. I guess maritime ceasefire will be part of it too, because mostly these Russian long-range attacks that resolve into establishing maritime blockade on Western-backed Nazi and the fascist Ukrainian regime. Most of these attacks are done by aerial strikes, correct? So this aerial ceasefire basically includes lifting or significant easing of maritime blockade through, logically, if it will be agreed. And well, Washington probably will try. Washington, American ruling class probably will try to change Zelensky's position on some directions, and it's not Zelensky necessarily, right? It's a globalist. It's a globalist, right? Zelensky represents globalists. He cannot say anything without being approved by globalists, European globalists, British ones, first and foremost. He cannot sign up for anything that is not approved by those globalists. He cannot initiate nothing, literally nothing, without green light from his globalist masters. American ruling class knows that, so basically through Zelensky, they are kind of negotiating with the globalists that are their situational allies sometimes and their opponents in some other times. And for example, to have a little bit more leverage over the Zelensky, I guess, exactly today, reports are coming out from Ukraine that NABU, US-controlled anti-corruption institution in Ukraine, mostly US-controlled anti-corruption institution in Ukraine, NABU and their SAP are going after head of Zelensky's party and parliamentary faction, David Arhamia, on the corruption charges, as always, right? So that's a quite interesting. Maybe Trump and his team will have a little word with Zelensky about this story too. That Nabu and Sapa are going after higher and more influential and high-ranking officials of Zelensky. But yet again, I don't think that will have much of an impact on Zelensky because he literally cannot agree or disagree on anything if without green light from London. So US can go after literally everybody around Zelensky in Zelensky's inner circle, and that would not have much of an impact on the Kiev regime because they are working not for Washington, they are not for American ruling class, they are working for British ruling class. And there is a big difference, by the way, and British ruling class is much more powerful, much more powerful. Some might be surprised to hear this, but I'm a strong believer that British ruling class is much more powerful and influential than American ruling class. And there are many influential figures in US are actually British assets. That's how it is. And when it comes to, but obviously, in Washington, they're going to be talks about some sort of a ceasefire, right? Aerial ceasefire, maritime ceasefire, this and that, whatever. But they're going to talk about ceasefire. And I think maybe today, later on, after meeting with Zelensky, or tomorrow, Trump will call Russian President Putin, and maybe Trump will ask, or maybe he will demand, you never know with Trump, maybe he will demand Putin to agree on easing long-range strikes on the Kiev-controlled territory and also maritime blockade. Whatever it's going to be called, aerial ceasefire or, something else. And on this matter, and we will see what Putin will do, by the way. I think there is a high probability that Putin will agree to ease pressure. I think Putin will agree to ease pressure. I know many commentators, Western commentators, have different opinion. They think Putin will never ever any temporary solutions with the Western world, especially after humiliating Anchorage spirit that hung itself. But I think Putin will agree. I think Putin will agree on American, let's say, American initiative. Although this initiative is actually coming from globalists, but Putin will be told by Americans, either by Trump, he will either ask, either demand, or whatever to ease pressure on the Kiev regime in terms of long-range strikes in the Black Sea and other areas. And I think Putin will say, okay. What do you think, dear friends? Am I correct? Am I correct on that? We're going to find out literally in like few days' time, isn't it? Like 5-10 days max. And we will know. I am correct, or these other commentators out there in alternative media that think Putin will not take no offer from or recommendation from either Washington or elsewhere when it comes to collective West. Anyways, yesterday I shared with you information that Peskov commented on the topic of this air ceasefire correct. For now, reports about possible discussion between Vladimir Zelensky and US President Donald Trump regarding an air ceasefire initiative in Ukraine are nothing more than media speculation. Peskov stated. But today, by the way, we have this report from TASS in which there is already discussions about how this possible air ceasefire can be implemented, who will control it and stuff. So yesterday it was absurd, and today there is a conversation how this will be implemented, who will control what and how. You see how big of a change has happened in literally 24 hours. So let me give you details on that. The idea of concluding an air ceasefire with Ukraine raises many questions, particularly regarding their mechanisms for monitoring its implementation and guarantees for an end to Ukrainian strikes on Russian territory. A Russian diplomatic source told the TASS news agency. This is a diplomatic source, and we are talking about TASS news agency, which is a state-run media, by the way, right? This is a state-run media. And this information is being published specifically to prepare the ground, right? First for a discussion on the matter, and then for a possible, or I will say even inevitable, ease of pressure on the Kyiv regime that Putin will agree. I mean, maybe in 2 days from now, maybe in a week from now, but eventually Putin will agree. That's why TASS news agency is publishing this article here. Correct? Correct. And I remind you, dear friends, that literally like a few days ago in Omsk, President of Kazakhstan, Tokayev, while meeting with the Russian president, stated publicly that, not just stated, but called actually Russia to agree on freezing of the conflict and Istanbul 2 format to be restored and activated again. And of course, Tokayev never ever would put Russian president in such a position when he is highlighting extremely unpopular topic here in Russia, if this topic was not discussed by two sides up front. These statements of Tokayev, of course, did not came as a surprise for Russian president. He knew perfectly well what Tokayev was planning to say. He greenlighted that because, as I said in my previous updates, man, I think Putin is moving towards some sort of a Minsk ring, some sort of a temporary solution, freezing of the conflict, and the escalation, and it's up to you what you're going to call that, Minsk free or anything else, but it's a temporary solution anyways, right? And when we say Minsk, I mean, Minsk 1, Minsk 2, what was that? That was deception that Western ruling class used against Russia to gain some time, to rearm, reorganize, not just a key regime, to prepare it against Russia, but also, Europeans use this time to prepare and reorganize themselves too. A different question is how successful they were, but nevertheless, that's what Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 was, isn't it? The Europeans and Americans, they were buying some time. They were misleading Russian leadership, and they're buying some time to better prepare for confrontation with Russia. And I think if there is a pause now, if Putin or when Putin will agree, that's how confident I am actually that he is moving towards some sort of a Minsk agreement. That I will say when Putin will agree on the escalation, on the freezing of the conflict, of course, that will be yet another deception of the Russia again, of course. And that's why I'm saying, by the way, because it is clear for me the trajectory that Putin is moving towards. That's why I'm saying that this maritime blockade that Russian military is introduced lately not going to last for longer, and soon Russian militaries will receive order from Putin to ease the pressure on the sea, and maybe we will see much less long-range strikes on military and logistical and energy infrastructure that you regime through. That's what I think, man. And we're going to find out if I'm correct or not, literally in the next week or 2 months, right? It wouldn't take too long. Couple of weeks, maybe. And that's it. Now, dear friends, before I continue, and share your take, please. Share your take, what you think about my analysis of the situation, my reading of the big picture. You might agree with some of my takes, you might disagree with some others, but that's why this alternative media is a good thing, isn't it? We can agree to disagree, and still be able to have a discussion and exchange of opinions. And so, dear friends, if you therefore like my work, if you like my independent media project that I'm trying to build for 4 years now, please consider to support her. You can do it through several means. You can donate to this project through PayPal. Link is under this video in description box, and will be in a pinned comment on YouTube. But you can support my work and this project with a subscription on my Patreon page or page on Boosty. Also, links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And during the live streams, dear friends, during the live streams, you can use a super chat feature. You can use a super chat feature on Rumble to highlight any topic you like, and same time support this project. And you can also use a premium subscription gift card. Which is a $5 donation. Every such a gift card, by the way, is a $5 donation. And right now I'm looking at the chat on Rumble, and I see one super chat from Scooby, and one premium subscription gift card from Viper. Thank you both, Scooby and Viper. I will react on this, of course, straight after a news segment. And dear friends, if I may, I will drop again in a YouTube chat, link to my Rumble channel, if you can join. And as I said, man, all the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. If you want to support, you will find the ways how to do this. And many thanks to everybody, of course, whoever supported and continues to support. Thank you very much. That's been said. Let me also remind you that your likes and comments might help to promote this project, these channels on these platforms, right? So that maybe more people will come across my videos. So if you can, please like the video, click that like button, leave some commentary, because without your support, I don't think I'm going to ever be able to deal successfully with the shadow ban that my channels are in. Right. Anyways, let's continue with some other news, right? And there is lot more. Poland made official statement that they have no claims on modern Ukraine's territory, which is quite interesting. Dear friends, I'm saying for a long time now that this war that West is waging against Russia will actually end only when Russian troops will be on the border with the Western Ukraine, right? Which will mean a strategical defeat of Western ruling class, obviously. And when it comes to Western Ukraine itself, I have no doubts, by the way, that Poland, Hungary, and Romania will make their claims on these territories. But there is quite some time before that will happen. And literally, like 2 days ago, Russian President Putin also spoke about Western Ukraine, that eventually will be claimed by this same Poland, Hungary, and Romania. And Polish foreign minister decided that they have to make official commentary on the matter. Let me give you what their comment is. So, Polish foreign ministry asserts that Warsaw does not lay claim to any part of Ukrainian territory, according to statement released by Polish foreign ministry. The Republic of Poland has not made, does not make, and does not intend to make territorial claims against Ukraine in the future. Poland fully recognizes, respects, and consistently supports the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. Statement says, and of course, this is exactly the statement that Polish foreign ministry, Hungarian Polish ministry, foreign ministry, and the Romanian foreign ministry will release now. This is exactly the statements that they will release, 100%. Because as I said, man, it's still some time before these NATO member states will make formal claims on their former territories. This might happen in a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, but this will eventually happen, 100%, 100%, Val. And when Russian troops will end up on the borders of the Western Ukraine, and this is going to happen, by the way, there's going to be no more Ukraine on the political map. Russia will liberate everything, including Kiev. And so when Russian troops will be on the border with the Western Ukraine, of course, Western ruling class will try to maintain some sort of a statehood of Ukraine in the western parts of it, right? And this nonsense might last for some time, number of years, but obviously, eventually, Poland, Hungary, and Romania will tear apart that Western Ukraine and reestablish control. Now, I remind you, dear friends, some 70% of the Western Ukraine is former Polish territories, and these territories were in part of Poland not centuries ago, but literally before World War II. Just now, in historical terms. Same goes for parts of Western Ukraine that used to be Romania, and it's a little longer period since Transcarpathia used to be part of Hungary, but nevertheless, it's not that long, about a century, right? Because I'm little more than a century. Transcarpathia was taken from Romania and given to Czechoslovakia after First World War. So it is understandable that Polish foreign ministry does make these kind of statements now, but same time, Polish ruling class continues to escalate with the Ukrainian Nazi regime, and for whatever reason, Polish Defense Minister Koźniak-Kamysz decided that he once again have to talk about MiG-29s, and he stated Ukraine must immediately transfer its drone technology to Poland, otherwise the MiG-29s promised to Kiev will be sold to Bulgaria. This was stated by this defense minister of Poland, and I guess this is some sort of a scam, isn't it? Because Kiev regime, literally like a week ago or something, already stated, and I report about it, already stated that they don't want Polish MiG-29s, because it will take too much money to modernize these planes. And there was earlier reports from Poland alleging that Warsaw already made decision not to transfer these promised MiG-29s, and we are talking about either 12 or 14 MiG-29s, by the way, that Poland still has. And there was earlier reports that allegedly Warsaw already finalized decision not to transfer these planes to Ukraine. So what's going on here? Why Kamias is again mentioning these planes? Maybe because they want to take some money from Brussels through Bulgaria to purchase these planes and then force Sofia to transfer these planes to Ukraine. So that tens of millions of dollars, potentially even hundreds of millions of dollars, might be stolen this way from European taxpayers. Hundreds of millions of euros, let's say, right? Potentially. That's what is going on, isn't it? Clearly, some scamming is happening, isn't it? Clearly, 100%. Anyways, let's continue with some other news. And well, you know, Kyiv regime, formerly Kyiv regime, in reality, you know, Western ruling class, their secret services, their militaries, and the Zionists organized a strike on Iranian commercial vessel in the Caspian Sea while hiding behind Zelensky's regime and manipulating with this plausible deniability stuff. And during that attack, one Iranian citizen was killed, another wounded, a vessel was damaged. And I'm quite sure, by the way, drone itself was launched from Azerbaijan. I'm quite sure Azerbaijan was involved in this attack big time, and Azerbaijan is, of course, a British proxy in Southern Caucasus. It's a former Soviet Republic, of course. I mean, this is Caspian Sea, and this is Azerbaijan here, Azerbaijan, which is a British proxy. Turkey has a massive influence, and Israel has massive influence too. And Turkey itself is a British proxy. So. Therefore, we will understand the colors of Azerbaijan, correct? And so, what is also interesting, Iran promised retaliation. Abbas Araghchi, foreign minister of Iran, stated that he spoke with the Kaja Kallas and also with the Russian foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov. Kaja Kallas is, of course, #1 diplomat in Europe. That alone tells. And Abbas Araghchi stated that he made it clear that actions of a Kiev opportunist, Zelensky, cannot go unanswered. So Iran plans to retaliate. And I remind you, dear friends, that quite a few Iranian missiles, not just one, but quite a few actually, are well capable of striking any point on the Kiev-controlled territory. Today, number of Ukrainian Telegram channels are spreading these rumors that Iran might actually strike Kiev regime in next 2 days. I mean, I have no freaking idea what kind of plans Iran has, when they're gonna attack and what exactly. But that's the rumors that being spread throughout their Kiev-controlled territory, that Iran will strike them, Zelensky's regime, in next 2 days. Okay, but we don't know that, if Iran will strike Ukraine or not. How are we going to know it? But what we do know is that there are reports in the Persian, in Iranian language channels about preparations of Tehran to take action against a large number of assets that are connected with Europe, because Tehran considers this act of war that was committed by the regime as an act of war committed by Kiev regime's European masters, because everyone knows Kiev regime is a proxy. It's not an independent entity, it's a proxy. It acts under the orders of some other parties. Makes sense. And let me give you a number, by the way, list of these enterprises, these assets that are allegedly, according to Iranian language media, has been designated as a potential legit target by Iran. I saw this report on DD Geopolitics Telegram channel, dear friends, so let's go through it. Iran reportedly draws up a list of EU-linked energy targets over Zelensky provocations. According to reports circulating on Persian language channels, Iran has compiled a list of European linked energy infrastructure as potential targets, since Zelensky is a European proxy force whose actions could trigger a response against EU energy interests. Pipelines that are linked to Europe that might be targeted. Baku Tbilisi Ceyhan. This is a major energy project that connects Azerbaijan with Turkey, and it's a major oil pipeline, right? It's a major pipeline. There is another one, Baku Supsa. Baku Supsa is connecting Azerbaijan with the Georgian Black Sea coast. Another one, Saudi East-West pipeline, Southern Gas Corridor, Trans-Caspian pipeline, East Med pipeline, Arab Gas pipeline, El Arish Ashkelon pipeline. That's a major projects there, major project that Iran allegedly considers as a legit target to retaliate on globalists. Correct? When it comes to oil and gas fields linked to Europe, Azeri, Chirag, Guneshli, yeah. That's Azerbaijan. Shah field, also Azerbaijan. Absheron field, Azerbaijan. Leviathan field, Israel. Sohr field, Egypt. Kronos field, Block 6, Cyprus. GGIP project in Iraq. LNG facilities marked by Iran allegedly as potential legit targets include Itku LNG plant in Egypt, Segas LNG plant also in Egypt, Pavitusa terminal in Greece, Alexandropolis terminal also in Greece. And there is also mentioning of a green hydrogen project in Oman backed by European investments. That's quite impressive, isn't it? That's quite impressive stuff there, Patrick. I think that's quite impressive stuff. And well, I'm not saying that Iran actually will go after this infrastructure, but what I'm saying is that many people forgot in this world that Iran is only past a few centuries retreated from a position of a major global powerhouse. Generally speaking, throughout the history, Iran always, for thousands of years, always was a major global player. Correct? And by the way, no one should be surprised if Iranian society, Iranian leadership, being descendant of this civilization, which will have its impact on obviously society's mentality and reading of the world, no one should be surprised if Iranians see themselves also in a position, or how should I say, in a position basically, yes, to pretend on a seat on a global scale. And if that requires, and to reach that point, this will require to put her to teach the lesson globalists too on their territory, then maybe Iran will go for it. Because unlike US, by the way, that is out of reach of Iranian weapons, Europe is not. Any point in Europe, including UK, by the way, can be reached by Iranian weapons if Tehran will decide that they're going to retaliate on these European NATO member states for their hostile actions. So we will see. We will see, but something is definitely going to happen, man. And I think step by step, but world should start recognizing the patterns, right? Iran is back. Iran is back and has no intention to go anywhere. You know, Iran is back in its rightful position because, as I said, Iran always was a major global player since the existence of human civilization, actually. How about that? You know, those idiots in the leadership of US or in the leadership of Europe, by the way, they have no freaking idea, isn't it? What Iran is, man. They have no freaking idea. Imbeciles, man. Meanwhile, Iran is already taking some actions, maybe indirectly, but already taking some actions in terms of retaliation on our key regime and its NATO backers. We have this report that militants acting in Ukraine's interests were detained there. Are you ready? In Iraq. Yes, by the way, in Iraq. Militants acting in Ukraine's interests have been detained in Iraq, according to Qasem al-Bodi, National Security Advisor to Iraqi Prime Minister. One of our intelligence teams analyzing intelligence has concluded that there is a Ukrainian interference in Iraq. We have detained several groups that shield several targets in Iraq. During the interrogation, they admitted to working in Ukraine's interests. He told Dijlak TV. Officials did not disclose the list of objects targeted by these terrorist groups that were basically led by Kyiv regime secret services. And when we say Kyiv regime and Kyiv regime secret services, of course, that means British intelligence and secret services, first and foremost, and also American ones. Obviously, because Ukrainian, everything when it comes to institutionalized entities in Ukraine, everything is a Western proxy and controlled by the West. Literally everything. That's how it is. So, it is anybody's guess to think about what was exactly tasks of these groups that were receiving orders from Ukraine secret services. But world should also get ready, by the way, for Ukrainian terrorism and the presence of Ukrainian mercenaries and criminals throughout the world, because yet again, this war someday will end. This war that West is waging against Russia through Ukraine. And thousands, tens of thousands of well-trained or somewhat trained, battle-capable, battle-experienced individuals gonna end up in all sorts of criminal groups, in all sorts of terrorist organizations that will pay well enough to these Ukrainian citizens for their services, right? So world will, including Western world, will learn quite soon how big of a mistake it was to enhance Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists, man. US, Canada, Europe will pay heavy price, man, for that. Few more news, sir. Few more news, sir. Trump again was asked about Russia's involvement in intelligence sharing with Iran due to this quite effective Iranian retaliatory strikes on U.S. assets throughout the Middle East. And Trump once again reiterated himself that he does not believe that Russia has anything to do with it. I can give you a quote, by the way. We'll find out if that's true. I'll ask Putin about it. We'll find out, Trump said, commenting at the reporters' request on Kiev's claims that Russia shared intelligence with Iran regarding American targets in the Persian Gulf. I don't think they did that. Certainly not at the high level, whatever that means. The American leader emphasized in a conversation with the reporters aboard his plane en route from Washington to Michigan, where he will participate in a campaign event near Detroit. He already participated, by the way, ahead of November midterm elections. Trump also added that if they did, there were no results. The American, according to American leader, and well, he's delusional, isn't it? And he is also, you see, he's quite careful with his language when he wants to, because you see what he says there. Where that phrase was. I don't think they did that, certainly not on a high level. That implies that maybe Putin did not authorize. Maybe something is happening, but Putin did not authorize. So when he says that Putin told me that he did not did this or that, well, he's not lying because he did not. Someone else did. That's what this statement of Trump implies, isn't it? And when it comes to this statement of Trump that well, if they did, there were no results. That's a whole different level of insanity, because if Trump thinks that Iranian retaliatory strikes on the U.S. assets were ineffective, then U.S. has even bigger problem that I think they have, isn't it? Well, another MQ-9, another U.S. MQ-9 drone was shot down, by the way, this time around there in Iraq by Iraqi Shiite militia. And at this point, the only question I have, how many of these MQ-9s U.S. still has, man? In fleet. Accepted it. Each cost, by the way, 30 to 35 million at least dollars. 30 to 35 million dollars, and these drones are failing in the Middle East like flies. A lot of them. Ansarullah movement, meanwhile, claimed that they conducted another retaliatory strike on Saudi Arabia due to violation of Yemeni airspace by Saudi drone, Akinci, Turkish-made Akinci drone that was shot down yesterday. I reported about it, in my yesterday's program. And also same time, it's the third day in a row now, or fourth day, that Saudi energy infrastructure is on fire in Jizan area on Red Sea coastal side, by the way, of Saudi Arabia. And none of it is good, man. None of it is good. This escalation between Saudi Arabia and Yemen definitely don't serve the interests of the people of Saudi Arabia or Yemen or the region, by the way, or the rest of the world. Only force that actually benefits from this escalation is Western ruling class, and one can only hope that somehow, either with mediation of Tehran or maybe Oman, by the way, Riyadh will seek the escalation with Yemeni Houthis, and there are some rumors out there, by the way, that start circulating past 12 24 hours that's exactly what Riyadh is doing now, allegedly. They are looking for ways to de-escalate. Probably they understand now, It was a miscalculation, big miscalculation, and mistake to launch aggression against Yemen again. So we will see what's going to happen. Tehran already made it clear that they will mediate. They will mediate between Saudis and Yemenis to reach the escalation there. Hopefully they will, man, because this harms all of humanity. We cannot afford, we as a humanity cannot afford Western ruling class to succeed in its attempt to isolate Middle East from the rest of the world. We cannot allow this to happen. And the leadership of Saudi Arabia, all the other GCC countries, and also leadership of other groups, including Ansar Allah movement or Houthi rebels, they all have to be, much more nuanced, right? Much more careful, and they have to have a much more complex understanding of this freaking world to make sure that they're not gonna play unwillingly in hands of evil force that Western ruling elites are. A few more news, sir. A few more news, dear friends, sir. I mean, this is long update, isn't it? Let me check, man. But hopefully you like the program. It's hopefully it is interesting and informative, and I'm quite sure it's quite original, man. I'm subscribed to all the channels that you are subscribed to, I guess, and maybe my English is not that good. Maybe my presentation lacks is not that lacks professionalism, because I'm not a TV journalist. I'm a writer journalist, by the way. I don't have tools that are needed for to be a good presenter, and my programs definitely are not as polished as on other channels out there, but I'm quite sure my programs are quite original enough, man. Quite original. And I personally prefer this unpolished taker, unfiltered taker, because that's as real as it can get, man. Right? So it is what it is. I hope you like the programs for what it is, man. And dear friends, let's continue. A few more news, sir. A few more news, sir, out there. There was another super chat from a Viper. Thank you very much, Viper, again for your super chat. Second one, not super chat, premium subscription gift card, by the way. And every time Viper or any other members, dear friends, on the Rumble, buy this premium subscription gift card to give it to someone or to leave it to themselves. Every time they do this, it's a $5 donation for each gift card. So thank you very much, Viper, for your supporter. And a few more news. Almost 2 hours, man. Almost 2 hours, this program. And I feel it. I'm getting tired, but let's finish the program. So what have I bookmarked here? Well, there was an interesting situation that happened in UN. By the way, when French and their US representatives went after each other, so American diplomats walked out of the UN Security Council meeting on Ukraine after their French counterparts criticized Washington's human rights policies. The United States voted against their extending their mandate of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Victor Turk. French representatives criticized the decision, saying that the United States was once a beacon of humanity and their human rights, but now is in the same league as Russia, North Korea, Nicaragua, and Mali, according to reports in Associated Press. And by the way, what can I say about this? These Western so-called elites, they cannot live a single day, isn't it, without mentioning Russia, in whichever context, by the way. French politicians have a row with their American colleagues, but they have to mention Russia anyways, right? They have to bring Russia in. Why? What the hell is wrong with these people, man? And while making this kind of statement, this French so-called diplomat tried to do what? Implied that, well, Russia is a backward country, gas station, and their humans have no rights in Russia. And if US is in the same league, that's too bad. Neither US, by the way, neither France can come close to Russia, actually, when it comes to standard of living and actual freedoms of the people. And to understand what I'm talking about, you have to be here in Russia and you have to live here in Russia, not just to visit like for a few days. A few days not enough to understand much, right? You have to live here to actually appreciate all the freedoms that you have, by the way, that you cannot even imagine no more in the West. So this French imbecile, so-called diplomat, should be sacked immediately, man. These true morons, I mean, true morons, man. Unbelievable. I'm telling you, dear friends, I mean, because if you are influenced by Western propaganda too much, you might struggle to understand what I'm talking about. But honestly, man, in terms of actual freedoms, people here in Russia are unbelievably more free, by the way. You cannot even compare. Unbelievably more free than people in the West ever can be, right? I mean, I'm 100% convinced this is the case, man. 100%. Million percent. And yet again, to understand that I'm correct, you have to live here. Or ask people that actually live here and appreciate normalcy, by the way, right? Normality. And appreciate this just a calm life. Calm, secure, freaking life, man. Right? When you don't afraid to share your opinion, either publicly or privately, and when you actually just enjoy life, man, enjoy peace. It might sound yet again strange, man. You know, entire collective West is waging against Russia, after all, for how long now? But I think Russia actually lives impression of more peaceful country, more chill country than any of those Western countries, man. I'm telling you. Ask her. There is so many Westerners that are live here in Russia, migrated to Russia, right? Many of them have channels, by the way. Many of them. Go and take a look at those channels. You're gonna be surprised, man. You're gonna be surprised how much people appreciate this freaking normality, right? When things are normal, finally, right? That they can no longer imagine being the case in the Western world. So yet again, man, this music no longer gonna fly that Western propagandists were using for decades, while misleading people that, well, Russia is a backward country and they don't know nothing, they don't have nothing, or this is no longer working, man, because there is different means of communication, and more people understand that Russia, in many ways, are much better place for living for normal people, by the way, than any of those Western countries, including France, by the way. In no circumstances I would move in France to live with my family, man. I mean, and that's quite telling stuff. In no freaking circumstances I will ever consider to move to France for a living. I mean, and that's it. When this French so-called ambassador tries to insult Russia and the Russians, freaking imbecile, man. Let's continue with some other news. And there are reports in the Washington Post, by the way, that deadly U.S. boat strikes have failed to curb cocaine supplies to U.S. Pentagon and the DEA officials say, and basically this is true, and this was expected, isn't it? This was absolutely expected, and if anything, and Washington Post acknowledges that these U.S. Strikes on boats and this military type of escalation with the drug cartel, if anything, all that achieved is that these drug cartels become more clear, more careful, and more clever, and there is no shortages of cocaine on US. Allegedly, man, I have no freaking idea. I never used cocaine, never will, but I never had no interest in that, right? But according to reports, there are no freaking shortages of cocaine or any other drug in the US. So it's up to American people now to decide how effective their leadership is, right? Including military leadership that misleads the people literally on a daily basis, including with these stories of war on drug cartels and blah blah blah. If they actually want, man, if American ruling class actually wants war to succeed in a war on drug cartels, why wouldn't they shut down CIA or the Pentagon for that matter? You think who biggest drug traffickers are in this world, man? CIA and the Pentagon. That's it, man. These Mexican drug cartels and Colombian drug cartels, they don't come even close to CIA and the Pentagon. So, are you surprised that despite all this noise and these attacks, and there's God knows how many innocent people they killed during these attacks on the boats, right? God knows how many of those boats actually were fishermen. But despite all this noise, man, somehow there is no shortages of drugs in US. How? Why? Maybe because CIA and Pentagon are the biggest drug traffickers. Maybe, you know. Also, dear friends, while all this madness is happening in this world, Trump is going crazy, also in a very rapid pace, man. And I mean, I'm beginning to feel sorry for this guy, man. I don't want to feel sorry for Trump. I mean, don't get me wrong. This killed so many innocent people, by the way. His policies and his decisions and his orders killed so many innocent people, including children in Iran and other parts of this world, that I definitely don't want to feel sorry for him. But he is losing it, man. I mean, humanly, you can like have some empathy towards just a human, right? Yet again, I don't want to feel sorry for him, but he is freaking losing it. He is becoming total freaking joke, man. And yesterday he had a meeting with his supporters, I guess, right? He was making all usual nonsensical statements and stuff, and at some point he went after parents of his supporters, mocked them basically, even though he claimed that he's not insulting the parents of their people, but he mocked them actually and claimed that he done more for people than their parents. He is losing it, man. This is not just some extreme narcissism. He is in deep trouble. His brains are cooked. You know. I believe I even have a video, man. Let me check. Yeah, I do, man. Just listen.
Count. Those people love Trump. Because I've done more for you than your parents, okay? Your parents are good. I'm not going to knock your parents, but I have been better to you than your parents. That I can tell you. And they would agree with me. Wherever they may be, they would agree.
What can I say, man? He is losing it, isn't it? And this is a president of major nuclear superpower. Not just any country, but major nuclear superpower. And I think that is dangerous, man. That is dangerous. I don't know. This is too bad. This is too bad, man. Few more news, sir. A few more news, dear friends. Let me check what else have I bookmarked. Well, Pashinyan, Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, called the Russian president and asked for help in terms of exports of Armenian goods onto Russian market, which is, I mean, I don't know, man, which is quite funny, isn't it? He was warned, man. Armenian leadership was warned. You mess with Russia, man, and you will find out, right? And Russia was very polite. Russian leadership was very polite. All Moscow ever asked Yerevan is to make it clear where their stand is. Are they in the camp of enemies of Russia, or they are Russian allies and friends? All Moscow ever asked Yerevan, by the way, is to make up its mind and make it clear where they stand. And because Yerevan decided that they're going to join camp of enemies of Russia, and Armenia quite effectively become, as a result of activity of Pashinyan's regime, Western proxy, obviously Moscow start reacting in certain ways, right? And suddenly Armenian businesses start learning that they need Russian market. And now, because Pashinyan is experiencing some pressure from his own people, he's calling Russian president, asking for help. And you tell me, dear friends, what Putin gonna do? What can Putin do in this situation? He personally, I believe, asked Pashinyan to conduct referendum in a country so that everything will become clear in terms of direction of Armenia. Armenian political class will know what people's will is. Russia will know what Armenian people wants, and everyone else will know. That's all Putin ever asked Pashinyan. Just conduct referendum. Let's see what people want, right? And that is that. Pashinyan continues to promise that there will be referendum. He's done nothing to conduct referendum. Meanwhile, transforming Armenia into active Western proxy, US, French, British proxy, correct? Mostly American and French, obviously. And now he's asking Putin for help. Putin probably thinks for himself, I mean, what can I do, man? I mean, what can I do for you? It's all your fault. Honestly, what can Putin do, man? I don't know. I have no freaking idea. Look, report in Vzгляд newspaper. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has appealed to Russian President Vladimir Putin to resolve the difficulties that have arisen in the supply of Armenian products on the Russian market. During the phone conversation with the Russian president, Pashinyan spoke about the issues that Armenian businesses are facing. He emphasized that restrictions on the export of goods of Armenian origin to the Russian market contradict the Armenian-Russian legal framework and the regulations of the Eurasian Economic Union, and asked that measures be taken to resolve these issues. And question is since when transformation of Armenia into Western proxy, or since when Armenia joining camp of Russian enemies complies to any of the agreements that Russia and Armenia ever had, or to anything related to Eurasian Economic Union? The last time I checked, Armenia was not just a member of Eurasian Economic Union, but also a military ally of Russia, on the paper, by the way. Armenia still is a member of a collective security treaty organization. And the way Yerevan acts is anything but friendly. And audacity, by the way, right? Audacity to take a phone and call Russian president and demand kind of, or ask, okay, ask her for preferences despite being a proxy of the Russian enemies. I mean, what the hell is wrong with brains of this guy, man? I don't know. But yet again, man, Armenian people, I said it before, man, Armenian people have to wake up and take some very difficult steps if they want to reclaim their own country, because they are heading towards dark place, man. What can I say? Armenia is on a trajectory towards a very dark place. Neither Europeans, neither Americans gonna help them once they will get there. So it is what it is. Russian president also had a phone conversation with their Azerbaijani president Ilham Aliyev. Russian and Azerbaijani presidents Vladimir Putin and Ilham Aliyev discussed the bilateral relations and their international situation by phone. The leaders noted that the constructive nature of Russia-Azerbaijani relations and their intensification of dialogue between their governments and relevant agencies are good. Okay. Just usual diplomatic language there. Azerbaijan is also a proxy, by the way. British proxy, Turkish proxy, Israeli proxy. First and foremost, British proxy. Of course, Turkey itself is a British proxy, and I'm quite sure British ruling class has quite significant level of influence on the Zionists too. But either way, I wonder what actually two presidents spoke about. Did the Russian president ask her a level of Azerbaijani involvement in that attack on Iranian vessel? Maybe they spoke about something else. Maybe Putin recommended Aliyev to stay away from Iran. Or maybe something else is going on. But relationships, as I said, remember, dear friends, I said a long time ago now, when Baku decided that they're going to escalate with Moscow on behalf of their British masters, when Aliyev's regime decided that they are going for it, that was it, man. I said straight away, there is no circumstances in which Putin will, or any other Russian politician, by the way, will forgive or forgot. It was like betrayal, basically, from Azerbaijani side, and that is that. And relationships, as long as Aliyev is and his clan is in charge of Azerbaijan, relationships between Moscow and Baku never gonna reach the same levels as it was, let's say, 5-10 years ago. That's how it is, man. Azerbaijan needs to be actually independent, sovereign state to be able to have a proper, friendly, strategical relationships with its neighbors, including with Russia. In status of proxy, Azerbaijan is a threat for its neighbors. Massive difference, isn't it? Massive difference. Also, dear friends, there are reports, for example, British Guardian reports, shares with the public information that Russia and North Korea are preparing to open a road link. Commissioning of the bridge between Russia and North Korea will mean that direct road connection will exist between the two countries, something that has not existed before. Moscow and Pyongyang claim that the bridge is intended to expand their trade and the tourism. However, newspaper, this British propaganda outlet, Guardian, believes that the main purpose of the bridge between the two countries is to create a military logistic corridor as a part of a comprehensive strategic partnership. These idiots, man. Huh? Honestly, I mean, how stupid are these people, man? That pretend to be journalists and they're and someone's with working brains in the West, Western elites, right? How idiots are they? There is a bridge in the place. There is a railway. There is a railway that operates between the sides. Road bridge is good, of course, right? Especially for regions in Russian regions and North Korean regions in immediate vicinity of these bridges. That will enhance, obviously, economical cooperation, business, and so on, tourism and so on. That's good. But since when, man, road bridge is becoming like something of more effective in terms of military logistics than railway bridge, man? Truly idiots, isn't it? I'm telling you, man. In the Guardian, there is probably not a single real journalist. If they think that the road bridge is more effective in terms of military logistics than the railway bridge, it's crazy, man. Mostly all the goods, by the way, military or civilian, if it's not carried by the sea, it's carried by railway. Mostly, right? By railway. That's how most goods being moved around. Not on the trucks. Trucks are final point. But before goods will get to trucks, railways are involved, right? But anyways, good news, nevertheless, good news that yet again, regions, bordering regions of Russia and North Korea will have additional stimulus, right, to further develop the relationships. And it looks like North Korea is opening its market to Russia, by the way, more and more. And of course, Russian businesses are going to flood North Korea, man. And therefore, GDP growth of North Korea gonna be unbelievable in coming years, potentially decade or two even, until a certain level will be reached, after which further enhancement, further rapid development is becoming more time consuming, right? But at this point, when so much can be done and rapidly to enhance the economy of North Korea, well, economical growth is going to be crazy big. Yet again, it all depends on the policies of Pyongyang, obviously, and if they will allow Russian business to flood North Korean economy. And they will, man, because it's a tremendous potential, right? Russian businesses can establish dominance on the market. And if in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, North Korea will open its market also for, I don't know, China or South Korea, let's say, Russian businesses will be in a strong position to, to dominate their segments of their economy. So therefore, of course, those Russian businesses that have potential there might invest tens of billions of dollars in North Korean economy. Depends on policies of Pyongyang or Pyongyang. How you say it in English? Pyongyang. In Russian, we say Pyongyang. And I want to end the news segment, dear friends, on this interesting news. China is poised to take control of fusion energy, potentially unlocking a virtually limitless source of cheap energy in vast quantities. China has completed the construction of the world's largest fusion magnet, overcoming their key obstacle in mastering the technology of controlled thermonuclear fusion, which could provide virtually unlimited amount of energy. And of course, these fusion reactors, these are future, obviously, right? Fusion is sun's physics, right? That's what happens in the sun when atoms. Right now, our sun fuses atoms of helium, right? When atoms of helium are fused, they are transformed into atoms of what? Something else, right? Then those something else atoms will fuse, and their subsequent atoms, new atoms that are generated, are becoming heavier and heavier and heavier, and eventually they are becoming, they are reaching point of iron, and iron atoms can't fuse, isn't it? They need more energy to fuse than they will produce as a result. So therefore, once sun reaches that point when there is only heavy elements, extremely heavy elements left, fusion shuts down, correct? And you're gonna get either sun collapses, right? Gravity takes over, and either you're gonna have a supernova if it's a massive star, or sun will shred its outer layer and will transform into a white dwarf, as our sun will do in about 4 or 5 billion years from now, isn't it? Something like that. Anyways, China has announced their completion of their development of two key superconducting magnets for the fusion reactor, including their world's largest toroidal magnet, 21 meters long and 552 tons in weight. Following successful testing, their devices have been declared fully ready for use in a future experimental facility. Both magnets were entirely manufactured using Chinese technology, from superconducting materials to the most complex production processes. They are designed to contain plasma at their temperatures exceeding 100 million degrees Celsius, and initiate sustainable, stable fusion reaction. 100 million degrees, by the way, Celsius. That's quite a lot, isn't it? That's quite a lot. And yes, fusion is the future for sure. Fusion reactors are future. Um, or, I mean, промежуточный шаг. They're gonna be, we're gonna get even better in the physics, right? Much better in the physics, and fusion reaction might look like a fantasy right now, something extraordinary, and it is extraordinary. Who knows? Maybe in 100 years from now, our knowledge in physics will be on such a level that we will be generate even more energy and even more sufficiently through some other technology than fusion. But fusion, as of now, fusion is definitely future, and China definitely leading the field, leads the field, and few other countries, Russia among them, of course. And well, would not be surprised at all, by the way, that if Russia going to be the first country who will actually develop first fusion reactor, not an experimental one, but actual fusion reactor that will produce electricity for the grid. And Russian scientists are on top of the game, man. Maybe scale gonna be less than in China, because the Chinese are capable of building bigger and bigger and bigger and all that kind of stuff. They have more resources, by the way, for that. So, but I think our first actual working fusion reactor may be built in Russia. We will see. But either way, sir, this is a big deal, by the way, for humanity. Of course, we need energy. Right now, we are not even a type 1 civilization by Kardashev scale, isn't it? And for another 100 or 200 years, we're not going to reach even type 1. So we need more energy. We need as much as an energy as we can potentially produce, so that our future generations of humanity will will have a chance to become not just faster type of type 1 civilization, but maybe type 2, type 3, and I mean, there is, I don't know, and type 3 is already sounds like fantastic, isn't it? By Kardashev scale. Type 3, uh, I don't know how type 3 even can be reached. Type 1 is when you're uh, basically able to control or all the energy capabilities of the planet. Type 2 is when you can use all the energy capabilities of solar system, and type 3 when you have capability to use energy of a galaxy. And I mean, galaxy is huge, man. How any one civilization ever gonna reach the point when they control freaking galaxy? This is not a movie, isn't it? Can't be done, man. And this is Kardashev's scale. There are some other scientists that come up with some additional types, type 4, type 5, type 6. It's freaking nonsense, man. No one gonna reach type 3 even. Anyways, dear friends, this is it for now. This is it for now for a new segment. Hopefully you liked it, and let me know reactor on recommendations from Christopher, also on the super chats. Let's have a community chat. By the way, new segment is done. I hope you liked it. Let me. It will take just a sec, dear friends. I see few super chats from Wayward. So I will make screenshots and let's have a little community chat. I remind you, dear friends, that there is this super chat feature on the Rumble where my channel is monetized. On YouTube, there is no such a thing for me because my channel is not monetized there, but it is monetized on Rumble, so you can use this super chat feature if you, of course, want to highlight any topic or at the same time support this project. Just in case, let me drop a link to my Rumble once again in our YouTube chat, and let's go for a little conversation now. Let me highlight. There was a donation during this stream, dear friends, from Patrick. Thank you very much, Patrick, for your $10 donation, for your support. And Patrick commented, I appreciate your show and our community is excellent. Well, thank you very much for your kind words. Our community is definitely best community out there. I always say that we are most friendly community, and I think I am correct. Because sometimes on some other channels, by the way, you see people are going after each other as if they are like long generational enemies or something. In our community, it's always calm situation. Sometimes some misunderstandings might happen. Sometimes we might see some trolls being active. No community is secure of that, but in general terms, man, I believe we are most friendly community out there. So thank you very much, Patrick, for your support, for your donation and kind words. Thank you. Also, dear friends, there was recommendations from Christopher. Let me highlight those recommendations. And there was, as I said, super chats too. And let's start from these recommendations. Thank you very much, Christopher, for your recommendations that you sent through PayPal with their donations to this project. Well, let's go one by one. Christopher is recommending a military update channel where a video was uploaded about terrifyingly close combat. Russian special forces caught on camera. Uh, Video is available on the military update channel, dear friends. I think you can read, isn't it? It should be readable. It's on a big screen, so you can pause and search the channel if you are interested in this recommendation. Also, Christopher is recommending. Hello, Levan. Just letting you know that Russians were the bad guys in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls 2008 movie. You can't watch this film for free on YouTube. You have to rent or buy to watch. Oh, thank you for sharing, Christopher. And I know Soviet people, Russian people always, I mean, maybe not always, but mostly were disguised by Hollywood as a bad guys. And that was a part of propaganda. I mean, you think why so many people so easily influenced by anti-Russian propaganda now? Because it never went away. It never went away, right? This anti-Russian sentiment in Western literature, in Western movies, even. I'm not even talking about political propaganda, right? Or propaganda that comes from politicians and media in the West. But even in our art, unfortunately, even in the cultural field, unfortunately, this anti-Russian propaganda never disappeared, and it was absolutely intentional. It was absolutely intentional. Hollywood was transformed, for example, into this anti-Russian propaganda machine. And it was operation, CIA operation, by the way. It did not happen randomly. It was actually CIA operation. Correct? And you remember in Hollywood, in the 50s, for example, 60s, there was a manhunt, official manhunt on anybody and everybody that are ever there to say anything that will be translated as a sympathy towards Soviet people, Russia, Russian literature, Russian culture, anything. People were actually jailed, by the way. People were losing career for that. It was an actual manhunt. And since then, Hollywood is anti-Russian. And to nowadays, usually, if you see some characters in the movies that pretend to be, Russians, for whatever reason, they always depicted in a bad light. Propaganda, which is unfortunate, but Also, Christopher is commenting, hello, everyone, here is the video that you might like to watch. Terrifyingly close combat, Russian special forces caught on camera. I already spoke about it. Let's go for other recommendations. Am I online even? No. Am I back? Yes. Sorry, dear friends, there was some technical issue, isn't it? I think there were. Oh, thank you very much, Patrick. So I'm online now. My apologies if there was any technical issues, dear friends. And let's go for some other recommendations from Christopher. So once again, thank you, Christopher, for your support to this project and the recommendations. Hello, everyone. There is a video you might want to watch. Putin, adverter, Ukrainer, trader, Temprano. I mean, this is in Spanish, isn't it? Or Portuguese, Christopher. I can't even read there. But members of our community that are Spanish speakers or Portuguese speakers, they can read it, so they will react. Also, Christopher is commenting. Hello, Luana. Here is the video that you might like to watch. Max Otter, NATO, and the EU are both failing apart. This video can be seen on YouTube channel called Glenn Deason Clips. He has 45.6k subs. I mean, Glenn Deason Clips channel, yes, 45,000 plus, which is a lot, by the way, much bigger than my channel. But Glenn Deason also has, of course, a main channel with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, more than 400,000, isn't it? It's a big channel, by the way. I can't remember exact number of subscribers, but it's a big channel, obviously. And thank you very much, Christopher, for sharing about it. Members of community will react, of course, on that. Another recommendation, Patrick Bab, Germans are the most brainwashed people in the world. A Ukraine war true. This video can be seen on YouTube channel called Peacemonger. He only has 14.6k subs. So, dear friends, I mean, let's add a little bit more subs to Peacemongers. I have heard some good words about this channel. So, if you can, if it's not difficult, let's. I'm subscribed, by the way. So I believe I'm subscribed to that channel. So if we can, let's do some nice thing there. Help per bitter. It's always nice, man. When you have a small channel, it is always nice when you see your channel is growing. On YouTube, unfortunately, my channel is declining. Either YouTube is unsubscribing people or members of community are deciding to unsubscribe themselves. I don't know, but in the last 28 days, we lost about 100 members in the community. But it is always, I remember how happy I was, and members of my family, by the way, when we reached 500 and then 1,000 and then 2,000 and then 5,000, 10,000. I mean, it's very emotional. It takes so much time, man, to build a project on internet. So much effort. So if we can, let's do this little nice gesture, by the way. Let's subscribe on Peacemongers. Thank you, Christopher, for sharing. And there were more recommendations from Christopher. I will highlight those too, if I may, and then I will start reacting on all the super chats. Putin tells US, bring it on after new threats. Video can be seen on YouTube channel called Rick Sanchez. He only has a 21.1k subs. So Rick Sanchez is, of course, American journalist, by the way. I believe he is a famous journalist in America, isn't it? Now he works on RT. He has a project on RT, quite popular show, but he has his personal channel too. Probably shadow bander, because I don't understand how he can have only 21,000 subscribers. Something is not quite right there, but yet again, that's what happens with their channels that are not going along with their Western propaganda, or propaganda of the Western ruling class. So thank you for sharing, Christopher. Hello, Levana. Here is the video that you might like to watch. Their secret KGB GFK assassination files. This video can be seen on YouTube channel called Anomics. Documentary is 90 minutes long. Levan, if you watch this documentary, can you please, maybe you are asking to share take on it. I cannot promise, Christopher, that I'll find the time to watch. I will find 1.5 hours today to watch this documentary. As I said, man, this project takes a lot of time, and when I wake up since the morning and until late evening, night, I'm constantly trying to work on this project, right? So no promises, but I will share your recommendation with members of our community. Also, Christopher is sharing with us secret KGB UFO files. This documentary can be seen on YouTube channel Anomics. This documentary is also 19 minutes longer. If you watch this documentary, could you please tell? I guess it's the same pointer, opinion about it. If I watch it, I will share my take on it, of course. There was more support, by the way, from more recommendations from Christopher. Hello, everyone. Here is the video. If you might like to watch. Scott Ritter, Russia will mobilize 500,000 troops. This video can be seen on YouTube channel. It's a Daniel Davis deep dive. And I spoke about this channel and this video already in today's program. You noticed. If you were here from the beginning, then you know about it. And I have to disagree with Scott Ritter. I already said everything while commenting on the matter. I think Scott Ritter is misunderstood something there. There's going to be no mobilization of 500,000 reservists here in Russia. At least I don't see any indicators of that right now. So that is that. Also, Christopher is sharing Russia filmed their most intense battle in their history. This video can be seen on YouTube channel Murat San. Well, that's interesting. That's interesting. I have seen many videos of combat, close range combat and stuff like that. It's hard stuff to watch. Different, so sensitive. If you are very sensitive to some difficult imagery, I don't recommend. But if you can take it, then you can see such a video of active, hardcore combat on the Murat San channel. I see interesting comment here. KSN Mart 70 is commenting. Who are the majority of your followers, Levan? Number one is US. Second is UK. Third is Germany. I mean, in top 5 there is US. We can check it right now. Actually, I mean, let me answer. Let me react on these recommendations, and then let's check right away online, right? Top 5, top 10, or top 20, by the way. US gonna be number 1, I think, but nevertheless, we will find out. So Christopher is also recommending. Hello, Levaner. Here's the video you might want to watch. Ukraine will lose its western territories soon or later. This video can be seen on YouTube channel called Freelancier. This channel has 86.9k subscribers. Thank you very much for sharing, Christopher. I actually heard first time about existence of this channel, Freelancier. So thank you for sharing. And another recommendation: Russia attacks Zaporozhye and Sumy, Ukraine and NATO under pressure. This video can be seen on YouTube channel called KYR Military. The channel has 102k subs, so it's a big channel. Thank you again for sharing. Christopher. And dear friends, don't you interested also to see the answer on the question from KSM Marta? Let's check, by the way. Let me first find out how to do so. I have to open. Wait, I have to open screen, right? Screen capture, and I have to open YouTube. Correct. So, okay. Now what I'm gonna do, dear friends, is I'm gonna move to YouTube channel. Let's go into studio straight away. Then analytics. That's our number of subscribers, by the way. Right now, 37,588. And in past 28 days, 94 members left, unfortunately. Either YouTube unsubscribed them or maybe they made decision to unsubscribe. Either way, unfortunate that this is happening. But yeah, that's the fate, man, of all channels when you end up in a strict shadow ban. I don't even know how can I overcome this situation, but let's go for analytics. Let's go for analytics. Where is their geography? Audience. Okay, that's their audience, right? So, wait. Must be. There should be geography somewhere. Oh, what? Okay. That's the geography. And it's in Russian. It's in Russian, dear friends. But anyways, I will translate. So number one is Соединенные Штаты, US, right? Numbers two on second place is UK. Third place, Canada. Fourth place, Australia. Fifth place, Germany. And this is quite surprising. On sixth place, Ukraine. Seriously, man. On seventh place, Netherlands. Eighth place, Russia. Ninth place, Sweden. Sorry. 10th place, South Africa. 11th place, Ireland. 12th, France. 13th, Romania. 14th, Poland. 15th, India. I mean, for God's sake, man, India, 15th place. You are 1.5 billion people, man. Come on. And and everybody speaks English. And it goes and goes and goes, by the way. So it's whole world. We are from all over the world, right? That's the geography. That's the geography. And okay, now I have to return this to normal place. Okay, and I can remove that. Correct? No. Okay. Now, so you have your answer, KSN. First five was US, UK, Canada, correct? Australia, and Germany was fifth. And then list goes and goes. So, okay, that's been said, dear friends. Let's continue with our community chat. There was also I already reacted on this, isn't it? I reacted on this. There were more recommendations from Christopher, dear friends. Let me, if I may, react on that too, and I will go for super chats. So once again, thank you, Christopher, for your super chats and the donations through PayPal. Recommendations and the donations through PayPal. Hello, everyone. Here is the video you might like to watch. Putin's full address to State Duma deputies as their term ends. And this video can be seen on YouTube channel called Freelancier. This channel has 87K subs. So thank you for sharing. Putin addressed State Duma yesterday, by the way. It was our last working day of this Duma, and their next session will be holden by new parliament members, right? As you know, late September, at 20th of September, we will have a parliamentary election. It's going to last for 3 days, so 20th, 21st, 22nd, right? We will have a 3-day parliamentary elections, and then new parliament. We will have a new Duma. So Putin addressed their current Duma yesterday, and if you're interested in his statements, you can watch it on Freelancier channel. Also, Christopher is sharing shocking combat, massive Russian Spetsnaz brigade storms Hostomel airport. This video can be seen on YouTube channel called Military Update. I guess this is a video, maybe old video that emerged now when Russian militaries were, not Russian militaries actually, when Gostomel, yes, no, I mixed it with the Donetsk airport, man. Gostomel operation was in 2022, man, right in the first hours of a special military operation. My bad, man, I mixed their Gostomel with their Donetsk airport. So, of course, it was the Russian special forces, Russian militaries, by the way. It was a unique, I believe, unique airborne operation, unique, absolutely unique, massive airborne operation. And Russian paratroopers, Russian militaries, they are heroes, man. They are heroes. They did their unique operation, absolutely. And it is so unfortunate and sad that Western ruling class get involved this directly in this whole situation and totally derailed their initial Istanbul agreements that was reached in March, April 2022, right? If West did not get involved, war would end there and then, right? This confrontation would end there and then, and of course, this Gostomel operation would be considered as one of their key moments of their special military operation. It is still one of the key moments, of course, but now when this conflict has lasted for so long, there are many other situations too that are documented. But on early days, early weeks of operation, of course, Gostomel operation of Russian troops was absolutely extraordinary stuff. So, dear friends, if you're interested in history of special military operation in military stuff, there is a video footage of this Gostomel operation on Military Update channel. Thank you for sharing, Christopher. And also another recommendation. Hello, everyone. Here is the video that you might like to watch. Russia captured this is in Spanish too. Russia captured I guess members of 14th Brigade, Mechanized Brigade of the Kiev regime. This can be seen on our YouTube channel, Legares Fantasticos. Lugares Fantasticos, fantastic places, right? So thank you very much once again, Christopher, for your recommendations. And the members of community, of course, are reading and watching, listening, and will also take your recommendations into account. Thank you very much. And let's continue with the super chats, dear friends. Let me react on Viper's donations on Rumble. Thank you very much, Viper, once again, for your 2 premium subscription gift cards today, which is a $10 donation. Each such a premium subscription gift card is a $5 donation. So thank you very much, Viper, for this support. There was super chats too, of course, and I will highlight those super chats now. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat and the $2 donation on Rumble. Scooby is commenting, I would thought it disadvantages to their collective West to merge Ukraine and Iran wars due to ease of dealing with the mostly isolated enemies. Why are they doing this? Um, well, I said many times before, isn't it, Scooby, that in the Middle East, Western ruling class will come up ways how they will introduce European countries into the war. I have said it many times before, isn't it, that U.S. militaries or U.S. and Israeli militaries alone gonna struggle, especially on the stage, on the current stage when they are engaged in this long range attacks. They are just run. They literally run out of long range weapons. So one way how they can enhance long range strike capabilities is to bring in European countries. And so in this regard, this push of globalists to create tension, indirect and then direct, between Iran and European countries definitely makes certain logical sense to me personally, because they need to bring Europeans into this war. There is several ways how they're going to do it, right? False flag operations, they might attack European assets either in the Middle East or inside Europe itself, or blame Iran then for that. And that could be one way how globalists and their Zionist allies might operate. And there might be many other ways. And one of the ways could be that they might provoke Iran to take action against the Turkey regime and possibly against European assets directly, because everybody knows Kyiv regime is a globalist proxy, right? And this might be used by Western ruling class as a justification to get involved directly in this war. So I see links there. I definitely see links, because without direct involvement of Europe in this Middle Eastern chapter of global strategy of the Western ruling class, they are finished, man. This Middle Eastern chapter is done right now. I'm not saying that with the involvement of Europeans, globally is going to succeed. Globalists and their allies, their Zionist allies, their neocon allies, going to succeed. Not at all. But without European involvement, direct involvement, they can close this Middle Eastern chapter right now, because there is not even slightest theoretical chance that U.S. alone, or U.S. and their potentially Kurdish, some, even not all, but some Kurdish armed groups, or some Baluchi armed groups, few soldiers from UAE or Bahrain or something, gonna do much, or even from Israel. It's they can do literally very little, if anything. They have no chance. So globalists might think, yeah, if we deploy now Europe too, if we push Europe in too, we will have more capabilities, probably more chances to succeed in the Middle Eastern chapter, because, as I have said many times before, Middle Eastern chapter is a key, absolutely key component of the global Western strategy, focused on destruction of Russia and China as only main competitors that Western elites see on a geopolitical scale. And also, if they succeed in that, of course, they will decimate even idea of multipolarity, and therefore they will cement their own dominance, or dominance of the Western ruling class over the world. So if they are losing, I don't even think there is even a slight possibility that Western elites, Western ruling class, is even capable of acknowledging the defeat, right? I don't think they are even capable of acknowledging defeat. They all suffer with narcissism, right? They actually consider themselves, looks like, to be like only humans or godlike creatures, and the rest of us are just subhumans for them or something. I don't think they can wrap their mind around the idea that they're gonna lose. So therefore, they will push and push and push and push and push as long as they can. So they're gonna bring in European countries, man, 100%. In this Middle Eastern chapter. And yet again, one way how they can do it is to escalate between Europe and Iran. And they are doing it. That's how I see it. Also, there was a super chats, dear friends, from Wayward. Let's go for this super chats. Thank you very much, Wayward, for your super chat and dollar donation on Rumble. And Wayward is commenting, what should Putin do with Armenia and Pashinyan cripple his economy? That should serve as an example to the rest of would be Russia's enemies. Azerbaijan should be on that target list as well. And well, I understand your logic there, absolutely. And Putin, I think Putin don't even has to do much or anything. Armenia, on its like voluntarily, is destroying its economy now. It's not Russia that does this, right? It's Armenian this regime that destroys economy of Armenia while operating as a Western proxy. Same goes for Azerbaijan. It's a difference is that Azerbaijan has a lot of oil and gas. So Azerbaijani economy basically is oil and gas mostly. That's the main income. And of course, agriculture is also quite developed in Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijani agricultural produce is quite popular in Russia, by the way. It's a good, high quality produce. I mean, Azerbaijani people, as Armenian people, they're hardworking people, by the way. They produce a lot of good stuff, of course. But due to escalation with Moscow by Yerevan and by Baku, for different reasons, maybe, but the reasons that are eventually clearly have links. Well, these economies are facing certain challenges that otherwise they would not. And Armenia will suffer more because, yet again, Armenia, unlike Azerbaijan, does not have no oil or gas reserves of tremendous volume. So, if any, actually. So they are doing it to themselves. I mean, Putin was very polite, very patient, and very polite to both leaders to Aliyev in Azerbaijan, to Pashinyan in Armenia. And I think Putin is actually saddened, honestly, on a human level. I think Putin is quite saddened that relationships are deteriorating with both these former Soviet republics. But yet again, this is something that, those republics chose. So consequences on them. Thank you for sharing. And there was another super chat from Wayward. Once again, thank you, Wayward, for your super chat on the Rumble and dollar donation. And their comment is, in the real world, backstabbing your friend or allies cannot go unpunished. I lost count of how many times Erdogan has stabbed Putin in the back. Has Putin punished Erdogan? No. I agree with you, 100%. I mean, Erdogan is one of those political creatures out there on a global scale that probably stabbed just about everybody. I mean, that's the type of guy that he is. Really cannot be trusted ever. But it's not just about Erdogan, isn't it? It's about existence of Turkey that is being questioned actually in 15, 20, 30 years from now. And I think analytical centers in Turkey have seen the prospects, potential prospects of Turkey if certain scenarios are being adopted in the world, and that's why Ankara is basically kind of forced to be, let's call it a situational ally of Russia, and because it's only situational, that means every now and then they will backstab Russia. As long as they can do it without totally destroying the relationships, because they need Russia. They need Russia. And that's how it is. But Erdogan, I mean, one of those people, man, that probably backstab literally everybody inside the Turkey in terms of internal political life and also on a global scale. You know, so I agree with you 100%. Also, another super chat from Wayward. Once again, thank you, Wayward, for the super chat and the donation on Rumble. North Korean comment is North Korean economy is a monster waiting to happen. Its industrial potential is immense. Russia and China should invest more in North Korea, but it depends on Kim. Yes, I mean, absolutely. It depends on North Korean leadership, or how, I mean, for how it depends on the leadership of North Korea in terms of ability, right, or of either Russian businesses or Chinese businesses to invest, right? It's up to North Korean leadership to decide how widely they're gonna open the door, because yet again, it's gonna be flooding of investments. Right now, it seems to me that North Korea prefers Russia to be major economical partner of North Korea. Historically, this is the way it was during the Soviet Union also. Maybe Moscow and Pyongyang was never actually very close to each other, like extremely close, but North Korea was always preferring to have a better relationships with Moscow than with Beijing. Maybe some historical elements have something to do with it. As it is a case in Europe, by the way, in global south. Also, there was so many historical tragedies that have happened, and as entire global south hates Japan for what Japanese did during the Second World War, there is also tensions between Koreans and Chinese, right? And they don't like each other. I mean, that's just how it is. As the European nations actually don't really are not really best friends. Take a look at any two neighboring nation in Europe. They might pretend to be friends, but they are not in reality. Take a look at the Poland, by the way. Are they friends with anybody in a neighborhood? No, literally no one, right? They don't like no one. Take a look at the France. Are they actually friends with anybody? With Germany? For sure, no. With Italy? No way. With UK? No, they're mortal enemies, right? Or and all the rest. So same goes, same stuff. Somewhat similar situation, I guess, is in the global south, and so happened the Chinese and Koreans don't really like each other that much. So maybe that has something to do with the spirit of Pyongyang more towards Moscow. But anyways, to go back to the subject of the dialogue, yet again, it depends, of course, on Kim Chen-in, his decision, how wide he will, and his government will open the door for investments, Russian, Chinese, any investments. And if door is widely open, or if door is open enough, then, as you said, man, North Korean economy gonna go absolutely wild about it. We're not gonna be able to recognize North Korea in next, in just 2 decades from now. because can you imagine, everything needs to be developed, right? I mean, in every field you can invest, and jump that North Korea will do is going to be something of tremendous scale. And as South Koreans already proved, by the way, Korean people are hardworking, extremely uh, intellectual, extremely capable people, right? And yeah, North Korea has every reason to be as successful as economically as South is, right? Economically, technologically, and so on, as South is, and we will see, man. I think North Korea is opening for Russia. Recently, Chinese leader went to North Korea because Beijing also want to be part of this inevitable jump of economical, financial, technological jump that North Korea will make. But yet again, I guess North Korea still prefers Russia to be the first number one partner, then all the others, right? That includes China too. This is my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's how I see. Definitely, it's going to be something massive when North Korea makes that jump, and it will, I think. Also, there was another super chat from Wayward. Thank you very much once again, Wayward, for your super chat on Rumble and the dollar donation. And Wayward is commenting, the most famous Soviet villain of all times, Ivan Drago, Rocky 4. I still don't see how Rocky beat Drago. Hollywood and its propaganda before we knew the word. Yes, I mean, you have a good point, isn't it? How on earth Rocky beat the Drago? But it's a movie, isn't it? And they depicted Drago, Dolph Lundgren, right? Played Drago, and Stallone, of course, Rocky. And I mean, it's a legendary movie, man. And if you think about that, as a, I mean, Stallone's breakthrough, right? He wrote the scenario. He did everything, including the acting. Well done, man. What can I say? And it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that Stallone, in his scenario, had to go along the line of anti-Russian propaganda, and he depicted Drago as in negative lights. Right? It was not necessary. Absolutely not necessary. But that's the propaganda. That's what they do, man. And usually, whenever in any of those movies, you hear a Russian character, for whatever reason, it has to be something of negative type, very rarely positive type. And this is unfortunate. And it should not be that way. In the Soviet Union, by the way, there were so many ekranizations of Western novels, Western books, right? Sherlock Holmes, for example. And I believe when Brits first saw Soviet-made Sherlock Holmes, movie about Sherlock, they were shocked how well the movie was done, how respectfully to the details and nuances, and how respectful the movie was itself. And that's a different school of thought, isn't it? It was not some sort of caricature to paint her some negative some negative to generate some negative attitude towards the hostile side at the time, and unfortunately now too. No, it was extremely respectful and nicely done movie, and it's not just one example. There are many examples of that. So we don't really have that kind of attitude that we have to depict if it's a Brit or American or French, we have to depict it in negative light necessarily. No, not at all, man. But in West, it was pre-planned propaganda, and it worked. Unfortunately, it worked, and then many people, were indoctrinated in this Russia hate and stuff. You know, things happened, but nowadays, man, I mean, hopefully there will be more channels like mine, right? We are a tiny channel, tiny voices, but we are reaching out to world, right? Which is absolutely necessary and vital, I believe, especially now when communication is becoming more and more difficult. And if there is more channels like mine, then more professional, let's say, better developed and stuff, right? If there is more voices from Russia that demonstrate politeness and respect towards Western societies, as I do, man, I'm very respectful. I think I'm aggressive and hostile towards Western ruling class, but when it comes to Western societies, I have no beef with them. So of course I'm going to be respectful. I might be critical towards certain groups that are in a deep sleep and they're indoctrinated in Russia hate, but even then I'm going to be respectful in ways that I will try to even understand those people that they just watch too much of freaking propaganda and never even realized how they've been brainwashed into believing in some nonsense. So more voices from Russia will be the better, isn't it? To deal with this freaking Russia hate, which is crazy, man. How you can hate entire peoples, man? Just I don't know. I don't get it. But anyways, dear friends, sir, let me check. Let me check Rumble to make sure that I don't miss. You see, I saw question from Viper. I saw capital Q's, by the way. Let me find it. Viper is asking, what is the best Russian historical movie with their English subtitles? With English subtitles, sir, I don't know, but I think you can in settings you can do something and the subtitles will emerge, no? But with professionally that's done. I mean, and YouTube subtitles are not really that good. If you mean professionally done translation, I just don't know, because obviously I watch in Russian, but then there are so many great movies, by the way, about history of Tsarist Russia, Russian Empire period, or Soviet era period. There is a lot of great movies that depict different times, by the way, and different genres too. I mean, from comedy to drama, right? Or everything. I mean, cinematography school, by the way, I believe was one of the greatest in Soviet Union. As it was the case, by the way, also in Italy, in France, correct? In UK was Brits were making wonderful movies, by the way, right? But unfortunately, Hollywood destroyed it all. I mean, okay, Soviet Union collapsed, and unfortunately, all these studios, these big studios of Soviet era, also kind of collapsed, experienced tremendous difficulties, and there are many of them disappeared. Some of them still exist, but are kind of struggling to gain the same level. But what about Italy? What about France? What about UK? Every now and then, yes, they produce some good movies, by the way, for sure. But it was a classical schools, right? I will say Soviet cinematography, French cinematography, Italian cinematography, British humor, by the way. I mean, absolutely wonderful. It's a classic. It's absolute classic. And where is it? Where is it now? Hollywood killed it all, man, almost completely. Almost completely. Maybe once in a decade, UK or France or I don't know, man, Italy or Russia will produce something of truly high quality, and that is that. And unfortunately, viewer also get used to this cheap nonsense from Hollywood, isn't it? And now many people might not even be able to appreciate actual movie, actual great scenario, great development of the characters, great play of the actors, because there are many viewers, they used to this kind of garbage, like I don't know, take any of these superhero movies, man. So it's a long topic, isn't it? It's a long topic, but unfortunately, Viper, I don't know which historical movie has a proper professional subtitles. Sorry for that. And I know YouTube's translation, YouTube subtitles are not on top of the game for sure. But it's still an option. I mean, if there is nothing else. And dear friends, 3 hours, 3 hours, man. You know what I'm gonna do after the live stream? Probably I will divide news segment into two parts and will publish separately, because I can understand a member of our community is not seeing my video and then seeing timing like 3 hours. That could be scary. So probably I will make two parts from news segment and will publish it like that. Or I will make it clear in a headline that this is from today's live stream. Probably will be useful for I don't know, some members of our community. Maybe 10 people will find it useful. 100, I don't know, maybe 1,000. And I think that's a good way to go, to divide news segment, right, in two parts, and just make it clear that you are letting the community know that this is a fragment from live stream. This is it for now, dear friends. Thank you very much. I'm checking if we have any updates from Patreon or Boosty. Unfortunately, no new members on Patreon, no new members on Boosty, and well, maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. Anyways, dear friends, thank you very much for your attention, for your time. And in case you like to support this project, my work, under this video and in the description box, there are links that you can use to support. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day and take care. I hope you liked the conversation that we had. News part of it and also community chat. Bye for now.